I know many of you are stuck in the Microsoft ecosystem complaining about the tools that they have to use and that they are not allowed to use custom productivity tools. But Microsoft has a lot more to offer than you think. The only problem is that there are so many tools without having a holistic view on how everything is interconnected and what tool you should use for what. It can really become an issue, especially if the team leaders and business owners are not aware of this and just say, we go with Microsoft, but with no implementation strategy behind. You end up with scattered information, scattered actions, and end up just managing your projects via Outlook. After this video, this will change. If you're a team member, make sure to share this with your team leader too, so you can start streamlining your Microsoft setup today. Let's dive into this. Again, we do this on the ICOR framework, which is divided into 4 core categories: PKM, personal knowledge management; BKM, business knowledge management; PPM, personal project management or task management; and BPM, business project management. On top we see information, on bottom we see action, on the right we see business or team, and on the left we see personal. And we always talk about the work bubble. Obviously personal will also include private things, but here we really talk about you working in a team, getting back to your desk and not knowing what you need to do next. And that's what we will cover today. On the site I already listed all the common Microsoft apps. If anything is missing during the video, feel free to go to comments and let me know. This is a template that I will create in this video called Microsoft 365 that you as a myICOR member can load into your own tool stack or visualize. You just go to your tool stack templates. Here's the Google workspace that we already created last time that shows you this, including the video and the description, and the same will appear for the Microsoft tool stack. So without further ado, let's dive into this. First of all, what still people use for note-taking is Microsoft Word. Here we need to think about personal knowledge management versus business knowledge management. As many are using it for both, we place it here in the overlap. So this just means if you take meeting notes, for example, you might add this to Word and you share it through SharePoint with your team members or colleagues. So therefore it's business knowledge management. It's shared information, everybody gets access. But you also might have private notes inside Word, and therefore it is applied to PKM too. Excel, probably similar. You have some information and insights that you use for both. Is this the best setup? Probably not. But when it comes to note taking, this is where you should think about using OneNote instead. Okay, we still have OneNote available in Microsoft, and this is your personal knowledge management system. Yes, you can share things, but this is something I would use just for personal note taking inside the company to have my insights and structure things if I'm not allowed to use any other PKM system too. And then ensure that these things are only business knowledge management and I'm not starting to take notes or anything like that. This way you then can connect any information from the business knowledge management and give it personal context. So you take your personal notes, but you link out to any relevant information out there. This is building a single source of truth for your personal knowledge management. So you just have to go to one place to access everything else. The same applies now for Microsoft Teams. This in best case is just an information platform, but many use it also for project management. So it ends up here and you manage your projects there and you have some information, things are scattered, and this becomes a real issue. Best case again, it's your information platform, and then you can make your personal insights in OneNote and link out to any conversations or anything that you had on Microsoft Teams. When it comes to communication, I would highly recommend no longer to use the old Skype chat or anything like that, but to define just one communication channel. Obviously, there's also Outlook, the email. So there's a lot of communication there going on too. Again, you could link out just using the URLs to the emails and make your personal insights in your PKM system. And here you see how you start building a single source of truth for your personal knowledge at work and linking out to all the relevant information without duplicating information into it. By the way, that's something from a security perspective I always think is possible using tools like Heptabase, Notion, or anything that you prefer for personal notes, and then link out to these sources might be possible to use in your company too, because those are locked behind login screens. So if anybody can hack into your note-taking app, they still cannot access any critical information where you just add context but not the actual content itself. So now the thing is, using Microsoft Outlook, I place it here again, like Gmail in Google. We use email for different things. We use it for team communication. We use it for client communication, stakeholders, suppliers. This still counts as BKM system. So we get the information even from the outer world, and this is the channel it's going through. We might have newsletters that you have in your email. Those are your personal insights. They end up in your email too. Therefore, it's a PKM system too. And the inbox itself is a task management system. You can triage the inbox. We have a comprehensive course about this called Email Management Like a Pro inside myICOR, where we teach how to triage emails so you get to inbox zero daily, and all the information out there will get moved into the right places. But this is why we place it here, which includes then the task management. So you see there are 3 overlaps. If you move these around, you see these badges showing up for the placement, what this means, and this is it. Now it becomes interesting when it comes to your personal to-dos. This is where you can use Microsoft To Do. This is your personal task list to really understand what you need to do next. So this is where it becomes interesting, like we have for Google Tasks. We can now see if Microsoft Planner is used properly, we can actually embed the planner inside Teams. So therefore we could have this as a central point for our project. So you create one team as a project, and there you have embedded the relevant action. Okay, so we stay here with information, but we still have full context to our action. So those are connected at the same time. Whenever you create the tasks here, they will then also appear inside your Microsoft Tasks too. And therefore you stay in the loop. You have a meeting about a project with your project manager, and this would be the single source of truth to talk about the project, what is going on, the communication that happened around the project, but with quick access to the action items that need to get done. And then those get assigned to the different people. And when you go back to your desk, what you need to do individually without getting distracted by all the noise of all the other tasks, this will show up in your Microsoft To Do. Obviously, you can use Microsoft Loop, but this is where it becomes confusing. Whenever you add something like this in addition, you need to think about what do we actually want with this, okay? You can embed other things and move it into one place, but this becomes already confusing then for the team again, because they don't know where to go first, where to communicate. This is just, to me, something on top. You can build something sophisticated, but I recommend to have your workflows in place and perfectly understand the different items and why you're using them in your productivity system before thinking about adding this to Microsoft Loop. Therefore, for now, I will just move this into a utility app section here. So it's not a core application. We just can use this to extract data, to build up dashboards and overview pages that will consolidate different information into this. Talking about information, we should also add Microsoft SharePoint as BKM, because obviously there's where your files live and so on. Again, you can link perfectly to these files. So this way you will find anything needed perfectly. Also, you link it to your teams. So this means whenever you have the team meeting, again, with a click of a button, you would be able to open up the relevant folder and find all the information inside your SharePoint without waiting for the person in the meeting until they open the folder, find the files locally in their own private area. No, this speeds up time so much. If you just focus on one thing as your single source of truth, first point of contact, thing that you go to first when it comes to finding the team information, and then in there you should find all the relevant information that is linked there. Microsoft To Do is also connected to Microsoft Outlook, so you can create tasks out in Outlook and keep track of these too. Obviously, we also have Microsoft Outlook as the calendar. Obviously, we also have the Outlook calendar. The icons are not correct. I see this. The Outlook calendar. This is your task. This is part of your task management, your personal project management area, because here are the events that you need to attend, the meetings that you need to attend, and this shows you the time restrictions that you have. Again, I keep saying it, and task list is infinite. A calendar day is always finite. So that's where you have to manage out what is going on. And this is where a planner application would give you a better overview, especially if you're using other task managers for your private tasks like To Do with. You could connect this to Sansama. On this, you know, we talk a lot more about other productivity tools that you can use, but in this video, we really focus on if you're only able to use Microsoft tools. So there's also Microsoft projects, and in my opinion, this is where I don't understand why Microsoft makes people so hard to wrap their head around how they use the different tools and what tools they should use. It's confusing to have Microsoft Planner and Microsoft Projects, but in general, Microsoft Planner is what you use to actually plan out the action items that need to get done. Microsoft Project is rather for the project managers to lay out their timelines and the resources, and it connects into different things. Microsoft Planner is deeply integrated with the other tools here versus Microsoft Project is then integrated into Power BI and so on, so you get all the databases in the big pictures, budgets and things like that. So therefore I would actually move this into BKM, even that it sounds contradictory, but in the end you're not planning out really and assigning the tasks that need to get done. It is actually the information about the project, scope and resources and so on, and that's why we have this connected here. Then we should also connect this to Teams. So now imagine that Teams, you have a dedicated team for a specific project and it links out to all the relevant information here. So obviously now you could have Word documents connected to there on SharePoint, and those can become your standard operating procedures if you have versioning and so on. SharePoint itself is really powerful. I actually used SharePoint in big corporate to build a ticketing system that we used to streamline our work on the production lines and increase team performance by 60%, just getting this clarity. And in the end, it was not only our team using it, but then also the production lines, the quality assurance, quality control, all of them started to using our tool inside SharePoint, which was essentially a database. So they were able to have a single source of truth for specific tickets that we had created. And this led to this huge performance boost. So you see how powerful it becomes when you have the right definition, what you should use for what. Now maybe it makes sense to you to set this up, but now you have to understand all the individual tools, how you use them in the best way possible. This is where our ICOR methodology comes into play. Here we dive really deep into team communication system, execution beast, where you are sure that you align your tasks with the project goals and so on. You know, the right prioritization, all the things that we cover in the ICOR methodology. It's available as a book, but it's available inside myICOR. We have a free ICOR Journey starter kit. Make sure to check this out to get a quick overview of the things that you can do to further improve the system once you have this clarity set up as we have it here. The last thing that I added is the Microsoft Copilot. I'm moving this into utility apps again. I could now start adding this into all these tools by just drag and dropping it, and then I can do it so and it appears here. But essentially it is deeply integrated as your AI companion into all the tools, and therefore you already have AI capabilities that you can leverage. So working in a company that uses Microsoft is not always a bad thing as long the company set it up in the right way that is necessary for the whole team to leverage the superpowers that Microsoft actually has to offer. And now you see, if we compare it to the Google Workspace, you see in comparison on Google, this is the missing thing in Google. There is no project management tool available. And this is a huge benefit of Microsoft because they provide to you project management tools that you can leverage then with all the other tools too, and you can combine personal productivity with your team level productivity, and therefore you can build highly efficient systems. I was working corporate and there was a hybrid between both where we used Google and Microsoft. That was again confusing because depending on the project manager you had, they used one or the other tool. We used Microsoft Word or Google Docs and so on. Obviously there was a huge company with 300,000 employees. If possible in a smaller company and you can define what you use for what, always define it. So people don't need to think about where to place and where to retrieve information. I hope you find this video insightful and it helps you to get finally an understanding of the Microsoft ecosystem and how everything is interconnected. If you have any further questions, let me know in the comments below. I catch you up inside myICOR or in the next video.